Hello, welcome to Scrapbooking Station. Quick card video. So I've got a design that takes a large circle, cuts it in half. And that's what we're going to make. So this one is going to be step by step. As always, got more samples to show you of other ones I've done. So I'm going to put the camera over my shoulder. We'll get started. Let's begin with the basics. So you're going to need a 8x8 piece of cardstock. This is going to be a tall bookfold double length card. So its finished size is going to be 4 by 8 inches. So you take your 8 by 8 and you score it at 4 inches, and that gives you your base card. So it needs to be something pretty sturdy. I want to do a double mat, and on the first mat I'm going to come in 1/8 of an inch, and that will give me a 1/16 inch border on all sides. So this is 7 7/8 by 3 7/8. Now the panel that's going to go under my split circles, it's actually going to make it more interesting if there is some movement in whatever this is. So either it's kind of a complex pattern that kind of changes. This is a piece of adorable scoreable that's ombre, and so that's going to move, and of course you can move it this way or this way. And this one I came in another 1/4 inch from here. So I'm looking at 7 5/8 by 3 5/8. So that's going to make up the base structure. Now for the focal. Move this into the center and this end, so we don't have any shadows. What you're gonna need for this double length or a 4 by 8 is about a 4-inch circle when you're finished, and that's what we're going to split. Now, whatever image that you're using, you don't want it to be center centric, meaning that you don't want to chop off anybody's heads or split anything exactly in half. And so this dragonfly is going to work, and this came from Hunky Dory's Merry Magic. So this is a topper. Of course, it's a rectangular topper, but I've got my circle framelit, and this is 3 3/4 because I'm going to mat this as well. So I'm going to position that something like this, and I can get that. And I've already cut a mat, so I've got a plain white mat that's 4 inches wide. So cut the circle out, and then I've got this piece. And the other thing is a sentiment. So this came with a sentiment, so I've got a little rectangular sentiment, and then some ribbon, because we're just going to put a little bow on there also. Now before you throw away the rest of this piece, the other thing is you want to take your larger circle, this is a 4-inch circle, and cut 2 corners. So I'm just going to bring it through my big shot this way and give myself 2 corners. Let's take a look at what these pieces turned out. This was the initial panel. So once I cut this, I've got these dragonflies. Now when I slice it in half, well, first I'm going to mat it, and then I'm going to slice it in half. But I'm going to position it so that I don't chop off any dragonfly heads. And you got to remember that the outside of your circle is actually going to face the inside of your card. So however best you can do that, we're going to take a look at that after I mat and slice. Don't forget your 2 corners. Actually, it's really hard to get these exactly the same, so after you've kind of clipped them out roughly, put them together, and then trim the edges so that they're close. They don't have to be exact. And they're going to be positioned up like this. And then of course I've got my sentiment. Now before we actually start the mat and layer, these are both pieces actually of adorable scoreable, so they're really heavy. So I have no problem gutting the inside of this. And I know that I am going to want a mat on the inside of my card. So the first thing I want to do is get the largest circle I can. I can always trim it later. That's going to be hidden under here. So I'm going to take this piece out and save it for the inside. I know I'm going to want a mat for this guy. So again, give myself plenty of room. And so I'm going to go ahead and gut that out of there. And then I'm going to take this piece out also only because I can. I might use it for this card. I might use it for something else. So this way I've got an outside piece. I've got an interior piece. And it's all things that you're not going to see anyway. Plus it makes your card a little bit lighter, so that's always good for mailing. So let me do that and we'll start putting this together. I've gone ahead and secured the bottom mat to the card base, and so of course those are all my pieces I'm going to be using either here or on another card. Now I just kind of want to position everything and eyeball it, make some decisions. The first actually is if I want to wrap. Now I think this card has enough on it that I'm not going to wrap a ribbon. I'm just going to attach this bow toward the end. But again, I kind of want to eyeball it. So do I want the pink at the bottom or at the top? I think I'm going to go this way. Excuse me. I want to position these circles course, another decision is, do I want it raised or not? If you hear that tumbling around, that's my cat. So if you hear something in the background, he's kind of frisky this morning. So he's my helper. Anywho, probably position these 1/4 inch to 3 inches on both sides. I want it symmetrical. These corners are going to come something like this. Then lastly, I've got my sentiment with its mat. I do want to narrow this mat up, and because I like the beveled edges that are showing up because I've used a cutting die to do this, I'm going to go ahead and cut it again, tucking it right inside on the sides, and this way I can have a narrower mat all with beveled edges. So I'm going to do that. I'm going to pop the bow on, and then we're going to work on the interior. In finishing up the front, I lastly decided to punch out some dragonflies. So this is an old punch. It's a Fisker's, I believe. But anyways, this little dragonfly. So remember this leftover piece. I kind of selectively picked out where I was going to punch out. Here, let me put this behind here. Some of these dragonflies to use on the front. And also I'm going to throw some in on the center because this is kind of a use it or lose it piece of leftover. Okay, so now I want to work on the interior. And so I'm going to do that kind of independently because what I have here is a piece of an insert. So this collection in a megabuy came with the appropriate inserts. Now, I don't want to use this sentiment because that's not what I want to say on the inside of my card. And so I cut it to size, the same size as my back mat there. So it's 7 7/8 by 3 7/8. And so all I've done is I've got my strip that I cut off the same as that second panel. So I'm going to have the purple on top going this way. You know what? I don't think I found a home for that. And what I'm going to put on the inside is kind of the other circle. So remember I gutted out that back mat, and so now I've got the mat for this piece. And all I did was some heat embossing with some, what is it, Wow ultra fine embossing powder, and then stamped it. And both these stamps come from Bugs and Kisses. It's an older stamp set from Stamping Up. And so, as it happens, let me see. I'm probably going to position this up against this piece of Adorable Squirrel. And probably, since it's not even, this would be a good place to use this. I could pick this up, and this way I've got it nice and flat on the inside. And as it happens, I boogered up my stamp just a little bit, and so just a couple more dragonflies. Okay, I'm going to be working against this grid. Like I said, keep everything nice and straight, and then put it on the inside, and then we'll look at the finished project. And this is how it finished up. So really pretty, really nice, cute. I've got one dragonfly kind of moving into my card, this other one kind of moving out, almost looking at the sentiment. You can kind of get away with that. So, like I said, movement in your background paper, really nice. Anyway, so it's a good thing I gutted that because leftover piece is this. So totally different from the other. And I was able to go ahead and create a kit for my daughter. So this will be part of her September goings on. So she can put together one herself. I weighed it. It doesn't actually, didn't help much. It's still over an ounce, which is the magic number here in the States. Actually came in about 1.5 ounces. Wanted to clarify this embossing powder because I love it. Pearlestre by Stampendous, and this is the amethyst color. I got it from Paper Wishes, and they only have the two colors. One's green or emerald color, and this one. So when I get a chance to use it, I do. It's really great embossing powder with a really nice shine. Okay, I want to talk about some other materials and other designs, and I'm going to be like overly critical. So for this card, it came together really quickly because the topper was circular. So I got this really huge, actually it's bigger than 4 inches. And it does create the movement, so that background Adorable Squirrel is really pretty. The corners were already included as toppers for this, so it came together quickly. Now the only thing that I'm really not crazy about is the fact that my cat is looking out off the card. But the sentiment's so precious. Anyway, so really, really nice looking, empty blank no card. So again, using an insert for the inside with the same sort of imagery. At least this time I got my cat looking into the card. So that's that one. This one, scraps. but this circular topper, so I had this leftover circle. I always end up having some leftover circles. And it was actually kind of perpendicular, and so this is almost turned 90 degrees in order to create these two halves. And that's just so I had the more interesting things coming into the center of my card. This one I did wrap with some wire, so a little bit extra there. And then let's just see if I did, oh, this is actually a tall guy. So just some imagery on the inside, printed on the interior. Okay, this one's really fun. And this is what I would look for when doing this. And this came from a little book. So I've got another page out of my little book, Shabby Chic and Rustic Charm. So any sort of collage imagery. Actually, the sentiment came off of this page. So out of this page, I got my rounded corners. So I got this rounded corner, and I got the roses over here, and I cut the circle with the pyramid and this. So collage. Actually, I even think landscapes might work well for this. Got another piece of that ombre adorable scoreable. This one's also tall tent fold, and this is where I caught the edging with the circle kind of cut into the edge. So another really pretty design. If you have digital, of course, digital toppers, you can always make circles, you can always make corners. This is another piece of adorable scoreable that really moves. So if you do digital, this works for that kind of design too. I'm kind of back to making smaller cards. So the circle, I believe, is a little bit smaller. So here we got a smaller circle, and you're thinking, oh my gosh, you got bike coming in here, and you've got the bike leaving. But it's kind of a story, because when you get to the inside, I've got another die-cut bicycle that arrived. So that's kind of cool too. Smaller size. Circles actually take up more of the card. This background isn't as interesting, as kind of one-dimensional, but, you know, what are you going to do? And then lastly, if you like working in multimedia, what a nice way to test out some techniques. So this is water bleaching. And I actually made two because I wanted to try to see what one would look like if I embossed in black and the other one's embossed in silver. So this is using pattern paper this time. So I've got pattern paper that's got a lot of layers, a lot of depth, a lot of dimension. So really pretty, nice pair of cards. Anyway, I am going to leave quick photos of all these, and I hope you give this design a try. Like I said, very versatile. Anytime you've got a large topper or you want to play with some of your mixed media panels, great go-to design. Thank you for watching.